Okay, guys, welcome back to the Health, Wealth, and Sex podcast. Now on episode 6, Alex is here as per, and we've got a special guest tonight, Mr. Matt Strong. Matt runs 2, if not more, I don't know, successful, at least 2 that I'm aware of, successful businesses in the fitness industry. The Physique Collective members site with my own coach, Mr. Joe Jeffrey, and he's a very successful online coach with many, many amazing client transformations. So Matt, welcome. And
thank you for having me on.
How are you doing today?
Mate, I'm good. Better for seeing your face.
It's been a little while.
It has, mate. I've been watching you from a distance, seeing some semi-naked shots in a Physique Collective group, looking like a Greek god over there. I'm just good to see your face in real time.
Yeah. Not quite at death face levels yet.
Not yet.
So yeah. So Matt, I'm super interested in your journey. I think we all are. There's so many people out there in the fitness industry struggling, whether they're personal trainers looking to reach maybe a higher level, but they're a bit stuck in their local market. Online coaches that are starting out that really have no more of a clue than just to get their laptop out and take a picture of it in Starbucks and say, taking clients on,
That was literally me yesterday, by the way, Tom. I was taking photos in Starbucks.
I was going to say, I thought I saw that.
You've got to demonstrate. But how you get from that start point, what was your previous career like? How did you transition, and what were your sort of key turning points and learnings in this kind of journey that you've been on?
Yeah, so I'll just monologue an answer at you because I think that kind of sums it up.
Audio's gone. This is our first. Yeah. There we go. You're back. That's our first ever technical difficulty.
No, it's still gone.
One moment.
Oh no, I can hear you.
You're back.
You're back. You're back. The one moment did it.
Maybe you can't hear us.
Let's have a look.
How about now?
Yeah,
we're good.
Right.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was ready for a good. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, I got that one. Sometimes I flick it on mute by mistake.
No, it just decided to drop out then for me. So I'll revert that and go into a monologue.
Go for the monologue now.
I'll just rehearse it.
Yeah.
So going back like 18 years ago when I'm 36 now, going back to I was 18. I thought my career route was rugby. Then I realised I got injured too easily and I wasn't that good. So that quickly got knocked to one side. And I thought strength and conditioning coaching was for me. So I went to uni, did my undergrad in sports science, did my postgrad at Leeds Met in sports science. I did a couple internships when I was up there, like Yorkshire Cricket, Castlewood Tigers, did a few things. And I was working at Leeds United. My dad got sick when I was up there. And I thought, I'll just move down to Exeter, look after the family for a bit, where my family live. I thought I'll look after everyone and then I'll just get back into it straight away. Went down to Exeter, realised there was no jobs, absolutely no jobs available. There's one job in Exeter in strength and conditioning, and that was obviously taken. And I got into sales. I just thought, right, I need a job, need to make some money. I can chat shit for England. I was like, right, get me into sales. And I absolutely loved it. I really did. But I'd always I obviously trained still, and I carried on, just really keeping up with the research. And obviously 18 years ago, it was a lot of the old OGs. So like that's when dog crack training was out and like just has come out. And the internet there was no Instagram back there. So I'm going way back. It was mainly on forums. They had like Lyle McDonald forums. Lane McDonald was on lots of Lyle McDonald, Lane Norton. And you had a lot of the old school, like I would say like fitness guys. And online coaching wasn't a real thing. I did a little bit of it back then, but not really. And I always thought about getting back into it, but back then, I don't know if you remember the forum world. It was so. If people think online coaching now is toxic in like Instagram, back then it was like it was a different world. Like you said the wrong thing in the forum, you were just like that was just abuse because it was all faceless. And I just thought I don't know if I want to get into this because it's a bit negative. And I went progressed my career in sales and ended up going up like fairly high in the tree where I was in the senior management team, ran a team within the business. I was really enjoying it. I'd obviously kept up in touch with fitness. I had at one point I decided to work with Joe Jeffrey as my coach, and just again, I was always on top of the research, always training, always enjoying it. Trained a couple of people here and there, just like many friends. And then lockdown hit. And obviously, I think lockdown was a monumental shift for everyone. And for me, it was just one of those moments where I wasn't enjoying my job anymore. I just got to the point where the freedom and essentially, I was essentially doing whatever I wanted to, running my team. And then it was, right, you're doing it this way. And the business was run very poorly, loads of things. And then we started Physique Collective just on a whim. We just thought, let's start this membership site. And at that point, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm actually feeling like I've got more to give in terms of coaching. Like I love working with people. That's the reason I got into management. I loved it. And I just took on a few clients. I thought, I'll just do this part-time. And then fast forward about 6 months, I was like, nah, I'm going to go full-time with this. Had a bit of an altercation with their manager. And I was like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. I'm just like, I'm not a very angry person, but it was more just like, I can't be bothered to deal with this. Like I've already kind of made up my mind.
Did you feel like, sorry to interrupt, but did you feel like the fact that you'd took the time to build that second revenue stream, albeit in a sort of a more casual manner, like out of interest and out of passion, do you feel like that gave you that almost that confidence and security to say, you know, take your fucking job, stick it,
you know? I mean, I'm quite naturally like, I wouldn't say risk averse, but I think as you get, I've got a mortgage, I've got things to consider, and it's just like I was always trying to choose the right time. And I knew at some point I'm just going to have to jump. And I kept, like Indiana Jones, and he's like, he's got to make the jump. That was a leap of faith. It was like I knew at some point that was a vision I had in my head. I need to do this, and that kind of gave me like. I was going to wait another month till after Christmas, and I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm gone. And that kind of set me off in the right path. It was nice that I built it up to that point. And it's not even been 2 years since I've been fully self-employed, and it's just gone crazy.
Yeah.
Which when you say it like that, I mean, we just had our third Physique Collective birthday, and I'll be fully self-employed by the end of this month for 2 years. So for me, it seems like yesterday. But it also seems like we've been doing it for ages.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting to listen to, because similar to yourself, I'm quite risk averse, and I like to not, be relatively strategic in my approach to things. I always admire people sometimes who go for it. That's like, flipping heck, you're brave or crazy, and I'm perhaps more like yourself. But you took the leap, and it paid off.
Yeah, I always thought it kind of not being like no arrogance at all. It's more just. Sure. I built up the business to this point, and that's whilst running a very intensive sales job. Like I was managing a lot of people, and I was probably working like 60+ hours a week doing that. And I thought, if I just put that time alone with my work ethic into coaching and into the other businesses, it will work. And obviously, I'm not delusional. I'm not going, oh, it'll just work if I hope. Like, if you've got to put the time in, but I've now got 60 hours that I can get back and just throw it into that. So, and then you've got the fear of thinking, fuck, I've got to pay my mortgage. Go.
Motivating, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of motivation, yeah. Nothing motivation more like being not
don't end up in a box.
Yeah, exactly that.
There's nothing like a bit of, financial pressure to actually galvanize you, like, when we're comfortable, we're not challenging ourselves. We need our circle around us that's challenging and competitive and uplifting as well. And similarly, like, I feel like we do our best, when our back's against the wall. But in my own case, like, when I'm more comfortable, I'll tend to lean a bit more into bodybuilding. And when I'm kind of in the process of building a new business, I'll really lean into that, and I'll tick all my bodybuilding boxes, but like, it's like the perfect setup. I like the perfect setup. I've got it now. But like, I'll accept compromise on that to some degree. when it's like, because I've had as a bit of identification with you, like my dad got sick, and that sort of precipitated the end of my first career. That and an old guy giving me some sage wisdom to see me come home after like a 19-hour shift. He was just a porter. He looked after the apartment building in Manchester, and he goes, "Oh, Tom, they'll always flog a willing horse." And people must have said shit like that to me so many times, but for some reason it resonated.
It was that one moment.
Like, I'm a willing horse. I'm working 100 hours a week. I'm being paid 50. Like I do well off my bonus, so like I break my back. But otherwise it would be a relatively poor pro rata. And I was so sick. I was so ill. There was, the drink and drug abuse, combat like the 120 plus hours a week. Was chronically stressed, 8 double espressos a day, kind of like. I didn't realize how sick I was until I finished, and I decided to move into personal training. Right, I'm going to be a personal trainer, and I moved to the seaside. This was down south. I'm now in the seaside in the north, and I really enjoyed that. And I was good at it, and I had the background from university with the nutrition. I'd been training, and I guess bodybuilding in my own way for all that time. I'd had strength and conditioning coaches. Like, while I probably hadn't had the education, in a university standpoint from that, I'd had mentors and educators. So I'd always paid for one-on-one with my, really good strength and conditioning coach for a long time. That's what I knew. And then obviously I moved a bit more into hypertrophy and things like that. And it was when Dad got sick that I was kind of like in the gym all the time, and I really got into my bodybuilding, my pattern. I did my first few shows. Somebody in the gym that they asked me what if I used MyFitnessPal. This was after my first show, and I didn't know what it was. Like I never tracked anything. I just did like the template, like egg whites, chicken, broccoli, 2-3 protein shakes. Like it was like, that's just what I didn't know any different. But it's really interesting that when we're under pressure like that, and there's a catalyst for change, how fucking well we can do.
I love it. I love that pressure. Like, I've always done better under it, which is why I did well in sales, I guess. It's Parkinson's law. You've got as much time as the task allocated to it, and that for me is number one. Like, I write to-do lists at the end of the day. I'm like, unless I've done that, I can't stop. And like for some people that are crippled, and for me, it's like gets me fired up. I'm like, go. So like you guys are on here, you're on my to-do list, so I get ticked off.
Well, the joy of ticking a box, my God, there's no better feeling,
It's gamifying your life.
But breaking it down into those days and just racking those days up and being, those little boxes add up, and Jesus, what you can achieve just by seemingly ticking a set of fairly innocuous boxes.
Did you ever play RPGs as a kid?
Oh yeah.
I was like big into Baldur's Gate and Final Fantasy. Those are the sort of shit I used to grow up with. So for me, it's like my life is a computer game almost, and I'm leveling up.
Bodybuilding's like an RPG. Like, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Where do I put these points and all the rest of it? It is a bit of a game, really, in some respects.
It's the first time I've heard you say that. You're gamifying your day or gamifying your life. That's really interesting, and I like the vocabulary around it and everything it evokes. I always say that bodybuilding is supposed to be fun, right? The fitness industry, particularly the UK bodybuilding scene, really seems obsessed with making bodybuilding as unenjoyable as possible.
I would agree with you there.
And
going to war.
All this kind of stuff. And
in the trenches, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
But no.
And what I often say with clients when they've come to me and they need to get the fat off, and they start building their patterns and they start kind of getting into the lifestyle, and then they achieve a pretty good aesthetic, and it's like, so what do you want to do now? Because now you're into play. You know, it's like with Arnold, where he's like, you want to shape the deltoid and you train the deltoid. Yeah. This is like play. This is what bodybuilding is, you know, past that initial, you know, I'm really out of shape, I'm really unhappy, and I want to get in good shape. And that can be graft, you know, no word of that, that's not a lie. But once you're in shape, you know, it's very much play. And this idea of gamifying your day in a way is really appealing to me. I mean, can you tell me a bit more about like how you do that?
I'm going to go back a step because it's going to it sounds a bit deep when I say it, but I always try to remind all my clients, and I tell everyone in my life, I was like, you know, this is all made up, right? Like the way we view society, the world, everything's made up. Like the fact that a podcast exists is a concept that someone's made up. The same for the gym, the same for work. Like you don't have to do it the same way, and also you can choose how you do it. Like you can choose how that thing happens. Like I used to get in trouble with my old job because of like, I don't want to wear a suit to work. I'm going to wear trousers and a shirt. And people are like chinos and a shirt. People are like, you can't do that. I'm like, well, I literally can, because like if I'm hitting my targets, who gives a shit what I wear? I could wear a clown suit if I was going like a million quid over, no one cares. So I was like, I think you've got to once you realize it's all made up, like bodybuilding, I think, and you know, animal nutrition.
Yeah,
I think they've got a lot to be questioned for in terms of like the hardcore mentality of bodybuilding, because that's where I remember it from. That and like Dorian Yates' Blood and Guts. Now, no disrespect to Dorian, a legend, but people like to make it harder than it is. So the way I kind of gamify it is going, if you realize it's all made up, how can you make this thing as fun as possible? Like we're going to be playing this game for the rest of our lives. It is an infinite game. And if you realize that, as opposed to these like, I do think you need time constraint blocks, like if you're doing a prep or you're doing whatever. But for most of us, we are. I mean, guys, are you going to be lifting to the rest of your life? Because I am.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Just do it forever, don't you?
Yeah, but then take away the time bit and go like, how can you make this enjoyable forever? Like, I love what I eat, so therefore it's easy to stick to it. I love going to the gym when I do. I love the things I do day to day. And I think if you can find a structure, you can make that work, and a mindset where you can make that work. Like, okay, I've got X amount of steps to do. Okay, I don't even look at the steps anymore. I just go, I want to go for a walk in the sun.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll hit the steps by the incident. I think in the morning, I always think I want to be the best version of me. So therefore I'll listen to a podcast while I go for a walk. I want to eat well because again, that's the best version of me. I want to sleep well because I'll be my best self. And like all you're doing is you're taking those things which could be a chore, like I'll get an 8 hours sleep. No one's going, I'm buzzing to get 8 hours sleep. If you flip it and say that's going to allow me to be the best version of me, all of a sudden you are going, yes, I can't wait to sleep. And you start to think of it more, I'm becoming who I could be, rather than this is something I'm giving up.
Yeah, that's an amazing mindset. Yeah, I have to say, and like, yeah, so many people, it's like my coach says I have to do this, or you know, like these boxes to tick. I don't write a to-do list. I've got like a running list, and it's called "What do I want to get done today?"
Yeah,
you know, and it's just a simple. When I look at that, like I've already made that decision. You know, these are things that I choose. What do I want to get done today? And if it's like I must do, that's all part of a decision making, you know, for, you know, a goal orientated outcome, or, you know, or a happiness outcome or something like that. Because yeah, sometimes what do I want to get done today will, you know, be about, I don't know, having a nice meal out as well. You know, so it's not all goal orientated, I suppose, for me. Although, let's be honest, a lot of it is.
I think it's all kind of goal orientated to a degree, but I use this analogy all the time. I say, a goal's a nice thing, but once you've got a goal, you've got to park it. I say, like, I use the 100-meter analogy. I said, if you've got everyone in the 100-meter finals at the Olympics, what's their goal? To win the race, right? So what differentiates those individuals? It isn't the goal, it's how they go about the goal, the process stuff. And it sounds cheap. We all know process is key. but it's like you need the goal because you need to know where you're going. You need a vector. You need to know the direction. But then you go, how can I do this thing daily? What's the processes look like? And that is you are kind of goal oriented because you can't not be, but you're doing it in a day-to-day manner.
It's funny. I think people often say to me, I say I'm off on holiday in 2 weeks or whatever. It's like, oh, you'll stop training and eating so well, then won't you, to give yourself a break? And it's like, no, I fucking love this. Like, and it not like in some sort of
a chore.
Yeah, chore or something I've got to do or else. It's like every meal. I love every meal I eat. I love the way I train. It's completely different to everyone else. Like you say, I've gamified it and I've given myself just that recognition that in each moment you get to play the game because you like you say, you've got your goal in your mind. If you're not careful, you think, well, this is the rigid, the arbitrary way to do it. It's like, wait a second, that's my goal, but I can there's many paths to get there. I can play this game the way the way I want to play it in each moment. So yeah, just the recognition that you lean into a set of behaviors you enjoy, because like you say, I'm going to do this for forever. I don't see it stopping other than complete left field in me. I'll just do this forever.
That's such a lovely way to think about it. Again, it always boils down to that same thing of it's all made up. Like I tell everyone that I must say it like 30 times a day. It's made up. Like you can do it how you want. Like you don't have to diet continuously. You can stop if you want. Right? You can do these things that you can stop along the way. Like if I want to go out for a meal tonight, it's like, oh fuck. It's like only because someone else has told you that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like you can diet again tomorrow. Like that's okay. Like again, all these concepts, everything. It's just a concept. Is what it is.
That's become kind of
the connotation.
Sorry, Alex, but that's become kind of a running theme across the podcast so far. Also with Eleanor, who's on as a guest recently, it's sort of finding your own path, doing it your own way, learning, but also, taking the time to kind of apply, try different things and kind of find your path, I suppose. And the underlying thing has always been like the enjoyability, the enjoyment factor. And I've also seen, I don't know if you listen to Sarah's podcast, the Beyond Condition one, but it's really quite popular now. But she has a lot of guests on. Recently, she did like a mental health in bodybuilding series. And so many stories about how bodybuilding had really like ruined their lives. And it was, the common theme seemed to me that like there was this kind of dogmatic approach that we see constantly reinforced. I've watched 1,000 what bodybuilders eat for breakfast by Muscle and Strength, and like it's amazing when it's not egg whites and oatmeal, and I don't recall particularly ever eating egg whites and oatmeal for breakfast. Maybe I would be like Big Ramy if I did. I don't think so. So it's that, but it's those beliefs. So how much of your day with this kind of coaching approach would you say is like, especially with newer clients, it's just like myth busting, undoing pathologies, not just food ones, but just general pathologies that have arisen? I mean, maybe you can talk about some of the ones that you've come across as well, because we need some identification.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question in the sense that I wouldn't say it's necessarily myth busting. For me, I always kind of, when I'm talking through someone's plan, I'm explaining the why we're doing it. And I'll kind of give them a good, better, best in every situation. And it's really, when I say you're talking about nutrition, I'll say, if all you did, right, was hit your calories and your protein and got a kilo of fruits and vegetables every single day, you're winning. Like you've won the day, right? You've won the day. And then we look, and that's going to get you 70 to 80% of all the progress you're ever going to get. And then we start to like stack on top of that. But if they understand that actually the base level isn't what they're fed to believe, it isn't, you need to have this organic diet, five meals a day, and it has to be these meals either from they've either read it in the Daily Mail and they've been fear-mongered to, or they've seen, like you say, Muscle and Fitness, and they told this is how you got, if you want to be a bodybuilder, this is what you got to eat. It's like once you've kind of given them that spectrum to work on and told them it's not this binary thing of good and bad, it is a spectrum. You can slide up and down that depending on your day, your requirements, and obviously it takes the stress out of it. You're taking what can be a very emotive topic, and that's what this is what I'll do is I'll take the emotive topic of nutrition, which a lot of people get fired up about, and I'll try and turn it into the unsexiest thing ever and start talking about something else. I often relate it to finance. Again, giving a really basic example. If you set yourself a budget, and that's your budget for the month, you're trying to save £1,000, and you end up one day going 20 quid over your budget, you don't max all your credit cards. You don't go, I fucked it, max the credit cards. Financial ruin awaits, right? You go, oh well, I spent over 20 quid, fuck it. I best be a bit careful the rest of the week to make sure I don't do that again. But for some reason in nutrition, if I said to you, eat that cookie, you've gone over your macros now, people are like, well, fuck the week off then. Right? Week's done. Like, might as well just fucking give it up. And all of a sudden it's because it's an emotive response. But when you can sort of give them a similarity, they're like, fuck, that is stupid, isn't it? Like, it's not stupid, it's what you've been led to believe. So like, if you're aware of the option, the other alternative, we can work on that skill and then create a safe space for them to express that. So I'll go, look, it's normal. Like, you're going to make the same mistake again. Just let's try and do better next time. Because again, infinite game, you're going to have infinite opportunities to get this right or wrong. So let's see if we can do better next time.
Yeah. Foods are, I mean, it's my favorite topic, nutrition, food pathologies, all of that kind of stuff. And breaking the seal, that's so common. It's like I slipped and I had a Kit Kat, and then the cascade.
Yeah, then
begins. Yeah.
And what I love as well, like when I get a client and they've had their week, and it's like they've got the whole week, and it's like, I had a hot cross bun. Like, cool, like, no worries. I love that stuff because it's just demonstrated to me their ability to have something that wasn't a plan, that doesn't fit the normal bodybuilding narrative, or even like particularly serves you in any other way than it's pleasurable. Nothing bad happened. To actually get to that point can be quite a journey for some people.
Well, it's funny. There's one thing I came to a realization years ago is, like, you've got a mate and he'll always be in decent shape, right? He'll always be at a decent level of body fat, decent level of muscularity, regardless. And people always go, it's genetics. But if you watch them eat, they will actually stop when they're full. Crazy thought, I know, right? But they actually have the ability to stop. And I think a lot of this comes from childhood, a lot of it comes from your program until you finish your plate. But I think a lot of it comes in the bodybuilding world is that you have to finish this meal, because otherwise the macros don't count. And I think when you can actually get someone who has the ability to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, I'm done, that can be such a helpful tool. I'm not saying you use that all the time, because when you're goal oriented, you have a goal, you need to be able to eat to plan. Right? Sometimes you're going to be hungry in a diet. Sometimes you need to eat more if you're in a gaining phase. But if you've got that ability to actually listen to that signal, that's a skill which a lot of people who have great ability to maintain weight and stay lean, they've just got that naturally.
Supporting clients in developing self-awareness and paying attention to biofeedback. One of the most rewarding things, like saying, is getting a person to the stage where, when you're listening to them feedback through voice notes or whatever, where you're like, yeah, but they say, yeah, I was feeling a bit off on that movement, so I changed the weight, or I stopped the set, and I was like, I hope you don't mind, and I'm like, no, this is what I want, not to like follow my instruction to the letter, a blood's coming out of your nose, or you've got reflux or whatever. It's like to say, look, I noticed the wheels were falling off here, and I on the fly ad hoc adjusted the plan slightly. Is that kind of like,
Have you ever seen Troy, the film Troy?
Yeah.
Do you know the start where
times.
Brad Pitt's
wanted
training
to be Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is Achilles, and he's training his cousin. And he says, you said to never do that. He said, when you're good enough, you don't have to ask my opinion, sort of thing. Yeah. He said, when you're good enough at the general rules, then you can freestyle off from that. You can ad lib it and it'll be okay, because you know enough of the baseline that the decision that you make from that point is probably the right one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an important, probably a step, I think, in the ability to kind of make those decisions, right? There's a whole kind of learning process around yourself, your relationship with food, your food behaviors, where you've been influenced, and actually also what your body's telling you, particularly when you talk about the more dynamic phases of fat loss or gaining muscle. Because you obviously get all this body's feedback, and I mean, I've done a few preps now, and this one I can say I've been very observational of like my body's signaling, my brain's signaling, all these kind of like things that don't quite align because I'm doing something that the body doesn't really want to do. For example, like I'm finishing my evening meal, and my belly is full, it's a good volume meal, and I'm like, I want to eat something, right? But that's not, no, my stomach's full. So what's going on here? My hunger signaling's high, my appetite regulating's high, but it's not matching up with like stomach fullness as it normally would, and okay, yeah, like this is just like hunger signaling. You're not really hungry, you're full. If you try to eat, you'll be uncomfortable, you have a bad night's sleep, you'll be fucked tomorrow. And it's almost like being rather than kind of like being caught in traffic and in the flow, as it were, you're sort of sat on the bench observing it pass by.
I was about to say you're observing that.
Yeah,
I really like that.
And it's interesting, and there's still some things like I'm watching. So I've got my own little pathologies, food hoarding. I told you about the peri rubs. Although I've got enough of those, so I've stopped buying them. The like online shopping, that's all been pretty good. I've stayed on top of that. I've bought things, but there have been things that I need and like relatively minor. It's like, oh, I will need sensitive shave gel, from stuff like that. So yeah, I'm doing a bit more online.
I think if that's as crazy as it's got, Tom, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I didn't buy a Porsche like Harris.
Yeah, you didn't buy a new car. That was a good start.
Yeah, and then I think I do have one more I've forgotten, like a little bit of a prep brain going on there.
It's the observer, isn't it? Again, this is a thing that that sort of self-awareness where, like, you have this internal narrative
thing again, like that thing that I didn't used to think about, but it would happen. And like after the shows, I'm wondering why I've got like a chest freezer full of baked goods. Yeah, like a year's supply.
Someone else is running the show.
Yeah, exactly. Who's running the show? So like now, I feel like I've got enough experience to kind of like realize that I'm running the show, and when these things are happening, and if they're relatively minor, just observing them and going, yeah, I'm doing that little thing again, and this is why I'm doing it. It's something I often do, and let's just have that awareness around it and not let it spiral out of control to the point where you've got like 100 different flavor bagels in a chest freezer that you've had to purchase to store said bagels.
But there does seem to be some sort of separation, doesn't there? Almost like the observer sort of almost can pull back and say, whereas that wasn't almost an option available maybe when you were younger, or practicing that skill. There does seem to be able to watch what's even in the internal narrative of the mind. You're aware that there's maybe a voice, and you can I'm in a bad mood, or like kind of.
I think that's a skill you can if you're self-aware, you can develop that yourself, or you can develop that with therapy or work. I think it's such an important thing to do. And also having that reflection. And one thing I try and get my clients to do is whenever something's going bad, I say, what did you expect it was going to be like? As in like, oh, I'm really hungry on this diet. Okay, that's good, you're aware of it. What did you expect was going to happen? And they're like, well, yeah, I thought we'd be hungry. I was like, so is this any different to what you'd expect it to be? They're like, no. And I was like, right, in that case, you need to like lean into that and just accept it. And do you know, on a scale, you can press tear and it was 0. I always think like you've got to lean into the storm and then press tear and just accept that's your position. That's your now baseline. right? And then see where you go from there. It might be that you've got to tear that again and lean further into it. But that's your baseline. You're always going to have some sort of suffering to deal with. Just accept it as your baseline, lean into that. And
I like to. Sorry,
hello, little thumbs up.
Yeah, no, we can get if
we like the old thumbs
like
up.
If you double thumbs up,
going on.
yeah, if you do that
from time to time.
If you do a double
like
thumbs up, it'll give you.
I like to make the distinction between pain and suffering sometimes. So let's say you're dieting, it's not painful per se, but you're not necessarily comfortable. There's some degree of pain there, but it's the story you attach to it that's the suffering. Like, woe is me. What, why am I doing? It's like, kind of, no, look, the sensation's there. You recognize the sensation. It ain't a great sensation, shall we say? But you don't. The pain is like necessary. You can't escape from it. But the suffering's optional. The story you choose to run that makes that pain worse, that's up to you. That's on you. You can just be with the sensation and suck it up to some degree.
I mean, a really simple way I can explain to clients is if you don't have to have a response. Is like you can be angry, you don't have to go and punch someone about it.
Yeah.
Like that's a simple way of thinking. It's like every time you're angry, you just go and hit someone. They're like, no. And I was like, so you can control it if you're aware of it. So, like you say, choose it, and you can make that narrative what you want as well. Like I'm a big believer in like the hero narrative. I'm like, this is building a fucking cool story for my hero journey.
Yeah.
And that's that I'm not thinking of it in those exact terms. I'm like, I'm becoming the best version of me, and this is just part of the course. This is what I've got to deal with to get there. And like, again, did you think it was going to be easy? Like,
you read Joseph Campbell?
No, I haven't known.
That's all about the hero's journey, and
every
man has to sort of go on his own and find his way. But again, it's a narrative we attach to life, but it's a fucking cool narrative, and like you say, it reframes things. You say, this is my journey in order to reach my pinnacle where I need to be, and one day I won't exist, but it'd be cool,
I mean, it's quite a hard one sometimes because again, as part of coaching, you are dealing with. It's not just the physical side, you're dealing with the emotional side, the mental side of clients. And I've had clients, and recently I talked a lot about death on my stories because it's something that was a theme that came up a lot with clients of mine. And this is probably going to sound a little bit cold and distant, but it's the exact opposite for me. I was saying, right, okay, so someone's died, but what now? As in, I'm not saying you dull those emotions or like push that away to one side. You absolutely live with that and let it wash over you and just absorb that in yourself. But it's quite often you'll see people, like they say, they'll attach that narrative to it and then they'll suffer. Like, you can't stop though. Life doesn't stop now. Like, if you stop, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your mortgage, your friends don't want to see you anymore. Like, you'll stop training, you'll wither away to nothing, you'll fall into bad health. It's like, you've got a sliding doors moment at everything, and that's obviously a very extreme example, like dealing with like a really very difficult thing to deal with. But that thought process permeates everything that we do as an individual, especially within bodybuilding and life. It's like, what now then?
Yeah. And actually, death, if we put that up there as like the highest level of bereavement, but actually, like, as we go through our life, we'll experience many sort of forms of bereavement, like a relationship breakup will elicit a sort of a grieving a bereavement process. There's an absence from your life all of a sudden, and that can be circumstantial, environmental, pets, like all sorts of things that kind of come and go. And I think it really resonates with me when you say that it's like, well, but what next? Okay, this has happened and I'm going to have to deal with it. I'm going to have to process it, and that'll take its time. I'm going to have to sit with it for a while or forever to some degree. But is that going to be a limiting factor for me? Do I need to make that decision that this is going to hold me back from, let's say, happiness, self-actualization, or, even as you broke it down into like just literally maintaining your household, or like, whatever's the lowest level of what you can achieve while dealing with that, because of course some things are incredibly profound and difficult to deal with.
For sure.
I think it was interesting to link that what you were saying before, Matt, about the fact that when you're speaking to clients and they say, hey, you know, I'm hungry on this diet. And I think what's fascinating about humans to some degree is when we encounter a loss, be it, a bereavement, or be it even the breakdown in a relationship, is we almost don't expect it to happen. Like somewhere there's a malfunction in the human being where it's like, this shouldn't be happening to me. And it's like, really? Never? You were never going to suffer a bereavement. You were never going to have a relationship breakup. You weren't ever going to lose a pet. It's like, of course, but somewhere in us, there's this resistance to what life is actually like. And I think that's one of the main causes of suffering, really.
I think that's probably an evolutionary thing.
Yeah.
Because I heard a really good way of describing this. Is on James Smith said it. He said the optimists didn't make it.
No.
Like, the optimists never got through evolution. They're like, I can swim across that lake, dead. Oh, it's not that cold outside, dead. I can fight that woolly mammoth, dead. And it's like anyone that was optimistic, you're fucked. You've been naturally selected out. So as the world's got a little bit easier, we're naturally a bit pessimistic, but we're probably also a bit sort of ignorant to the negativity that could have. Yeah. Because I don't think we would have made it.
No.
Yeah. There's that, like, I suppose, like, trusting in the unknown versus like your experience of life, but whilst also acknowledging that this is potentially a new experience and a new scenario which may have certain similarities, but isn't, you can't expect necessarily the same outcome. That shouldn't it shouldn't stop you from being dynamic, right? Because and I've done it, right? The easiest thing in the world for me to do is to kind of self-isolate, eat, train, and sleep, right? It's very, very peaceful. And I call it the gray space. And I'll often be there when I'm dealing with something big. And it's like, and some people call like depression and things like that the gray space. And so my gray space is very much that. And what I have to remember is that although it's comfortable and it's not scary, I need more variety to be happy, and I need more growth and more balance in my life to be happy. And kind of below that, that's kind of below my threshold for I'd be unhappy and I'd want to do something about it, but I can quite comfortably sit in that space, neither happy nor unhappy.
There's a really good quote for this, Tom.
Time.
It's a ship is safe in a port, but that's not what ships were designed for.
That's cool.
And it's basically saying exactly the same thing. Is like sometimes your safe space is great and it's safe, but that's not what life is. Life is outside that, and it is sometimes you need to recoup. I call that monk mode, where you go back in, you like build, and then you're a better version of you when you step out, and you're better equipped to deal with the problems in front of you.
Yeah. I think that's definitely been my experience, like not intentionally, but that's kind of what's happened. All these like periods of growth have kind of come after one of these like fairly drastic blocks. And I mean, you guys know me, like I go quite quiet. I do my own thing and have my head down, and then kind of like this year I'll come out for a bit, do some bodybuilding shows and be out and about.
Then go back in.
Yeah, might be another couple of years again, before I because I think that's kind of what maybe the paradigm or the narrative that I need to follow. That's my balance. I'm not overly in need of a lot of variety. I need some, and I need to be socialized and so on to be happy. But also a lot of socialization for me is very overwhelming, and a lack of structure for me is like I'm very unhappy. So Alex was talking about going on holidays and maintaining his structure. I actually, when I go on holiday, I'm going to the market, I'm trying all the local produce, I eat out all the time, but of course, like, I'm not going to Spain to go and eat a fucking Five Guys double cheeseburger. Like, I want to explore the local cuisine. I've planned my show calendar around places I want to visit, and go for 3-4 days. Yeah, compete, but also like visit Estoril. I've never been. Alicante. I want to go back. Place. Las Vegas. I think it's going to be so overwhelming for me, but like
sensory overload. Vegas, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to wear my red glasses all day long. I'm going to wear
the artificial light. I think I mentioned it in the other one where it's like, oh, you come out at like 2 a.m, but it be because of the way the lighting is to just keep you going. It's like it's midday, isn't it? I don't know. Get another
adult
drink.
Disneyland, isn't it? But
Oh,
yeah,
it's mind blowing.
Tom, when you go to Estoril, have a look at go to Lisbon and like try the food markets there. Phenomenal.
this is like when I'm in Europe, this is the first thing I do is like, what's the biggest, best market? Just going in like, okay, because I like to get an apartment so that I can actually, like cook that. And like, I'm going to go to the bakery in the morning and get like great bread. I'm going to go to the butcher. I'm going to go to the like.
This is exactly what I do as well, by the way. I love it. Find a good coffee shop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you find obviously like you got to find a third wave coffee shop for like a fucking good hipster breakfast and a good coffee every day. Yeah, and I'll have a break from also from training. Sometimes if I'm there longer, like I like to have that in my day as well. Like if I'm going for a few weeks, I like to train. But if I'm just going for a long weekend, there's absolutely zero gym focus. I'm not a massive gym tourist. Like, okay, it's interesting to visit a new gym, but like I don't know the kit. I kind of wander around a bit. I could work out a few weird interactions from people I don't know. And yeah, like I don't know. It's about having these amazing experiences.
Yeah.
Even though I'll only have a few a year, they're like really vital for me to kind of come back and have these like these structured blocks of like training and progression and see work and so on and so forth. So like we need it.
There's a schema I use to think about that, and I call it investment and consumption days. And it's something where an investment days is something gets you further towards your goal, like your life goal, your purpose, whatever that may be. And your consumption days are things that take away from that or take you no further forward, but they're really fun. So if you stack up investment days and you can spend your consumption days, net across the course of the year, if you've got more investment than consumption, you've got further to where you like the self-actualization or your life goal. You've had fun along the way, because you can't just do all of that and have no fun. There's got to be a few bits of that along the way. And I think having that mental like framework for me is very, I guess, progressive, because I can go, right, if I work really hard for this bit, I can then do this and not feel guilty about it.
Yeah. That's probably going to resonate with especially a lot of the like physique competitors that listen. That they almost develop kind of like a fear of deviating from the routine. Like those things are vital actually to your sort of longevity and success. I think that's why we see burnout in bodybuilding, which essentially is like a fun pastime, but then taken to the nth degree and done so repetitively, you can make anything that you love like shit, basically.
I'm a creature of habit, and I love routine. Like kind of similar to Tom saying, man, it makes me so happy. But I went through a period in my life where, I think I've been using your terminology correctly, Matt, where all my days were attempted investment days. So, invest. And then my relaxing time was reading a self-improvement book. Or it's like kind of, and you look back and you go, no, because you're never ever having downtime. You're just always switching from one attempted progression to another. And
it's too much optimality.
It causes malfunction. It definitely caused burnout in me, and I'll always say that the weirdest thing about burnout for me is you can't spot you're in burnout. So people would say to me, "You're burning out." I'd be like, "No, I'm just learning a new mantra to leave me in peace." Meanwhile, I'm like sweating and quivering in the corner. And
like, shaking, like crying in the shower, like. Ugh.
And then I like kind of. It was weird, and then I'd watch Netflix or something, like some utter trash, and I'd be like, "That was weird." I felt way better after that, but I didn't get anywhere. And like, it's funny how the penny drops like that. Like, I just chilled out.
You've got to catch yourself sometimes, because I'm in like a big build mode with my businesses at the moment, and what I've done is like preemptively plan things in. So I'm like, that weekend I'm seeing my mates, because otherwise I will. That weekend I plan something in, and I've got this to look forward to then, and I'm planning to see my mates, because if I don't do that, calendar will fill up, and all of a sudden I won't be doing that. And then it's probably the best balance I've had, where everything's growing, but I'm not trying to optimize everything. I'm just going, like, I'm trying to do my best. I do what I can do. And I need this balance, which is not really balanced, but it's my balance right now. And that can also shift later in the year when I've maybe done what I needed to do. I can move it the other way. And actually, we're talking about bodybuilding. I did a post a while ago, and I said, like, bodybuilding isn't the problem. It's your relationship with it that is. It's like you're eating the way that you don't want to eat. You're training the way you don't want to train. You're sacrificing social events because someone's telling you to. You're falling into this "I'll never fucking miss" mentality, and you're actually missing your entire life pass you by.
Not
It's
just that, like
yeah.
the underlying thing coming out of this, so there's like two kind of key threads that I keep getting back. And one, like the pursuit of absolute optimal is the suboptimal. This is a really important message,
Paradox.
right? You will fail, right, by overdoing it. And the second thing that you touched on there that I think is really important within that framework is that as driven, goal-orientated people, and we are going to have to push ourselves, there's a fatigue cost, there's a potential burnout cost. There's that ability to work at or beyond capacity for a period of time is absolutely fine. But you need to plan your downtime, otherwise you won't take it. And as Alex said, you'll move into overreach, you'll move into burnout, and you'll become ineffective, inefficient, and you won't even realize that you're there. And sometimes you'll get a hard stop that will bring about that realization, and it'll be illness, it'll be injury, or God forbid you actually book a fucking holiday and realize that you're fucked, and you come back, you've got a bit of a zest for life again. So yeah, I mean, I always think about like maybe every 8 weeks or so is pretty good time. It depends on the individual, wouldn't it? But I would go for a long weekend away every month. That's perfect for me. Unfortunately, I cannot do this right now, but yeah, I mean, bodybuilding shows instead.
If you've got just something that you can do, even if it's just right, I'm going to go for a walk and not take my phone with me, or I'm going to, like, for example, I've planned in that I'm working this weekend because the following weekend I want to see my friends, and they're coming. Some of my friends are coming down. We're going to go out for food. We're going to watch the rugby. We're going to have a weekend of it, and that weekend I won't work at all. So I'm like, this is a trade for me, and I'm trading that. And I think that mentality of like I'm choosing to swap this for that works quite well.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And probably a good note to wrap up on today, so it's still digestible for everybody as we talk sort of mindset. I mean, that's been really a good deep dive. And I think there'll be a lot of identification for people to kind of take away and just say, actually, I am doing some of those things. And that's interesting. They might not serve me. I'd like to, reflect back on what I'm doing and really, try and understand, like, am I living my greatest life here? Am I sacrificing too much? And is that even, going to result in the outcome? One thing that always resonated with me was the importance of when you set a goal and you work really fucking hard to achieve it, and you imagine you're going to feel a certain way, so you'll accept a degree of suffering. So it's like, when I get this, when I have this, then I'll feel happy, right? And a really good reflection is like, what if you don't feel the way you expect to feel, right? When you achieve the outcome, what if you don't? And then you reflect back on what you're sacrificing to get there, because like, I think happiness is fundamentally like internal, and you're making yourself miserable, you're allowing suffering, like, to a miserable degree in pursuit of a goal, because you think the outcome will make you happy, give you validation, give you significance, whatever it is. It probably won't.
If you're thinking the end justifies the means, and the means are shit and ruins your life, like, is it worth it?
So I think enjoy the journey.
Yeah, it's so cliche, isn't it? But I think, have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Yeah.
It's a really, really famous but really popular book. And he talks about his obviously horrors of the surviving the Holocaust and everything. And it was horrendous, but he talks about creating this purpose in life. And I think happiness as a goal is a very bad goal because it's so, I don't know. I like the idea of it, but like you're not going to find happiness at the end of the road. You can choose to be happy right now and then build a purpose which perpetuates that.
Yeah.
Like I can choose I'm happy right now. How can I continue to build my life in such a manner that the decisions I make only reinforce that and make that castle of happiness bigger?
Yeah.
Right. And that comes with having a purpose. It comes with actually reflection. It comes with deciding what do I want my life to look like. And that's a very scary question to ask yourself. I think the minute you start doing that, you can actually go, right, currently I'm living this way. I don't know, I'm dedicating my life to bodybuilding. Is that worth it to me? And I've got friends who are very highly ranked in the world in their respective divisions, and they're like, absolutely. But they know that isn't their only thing in life. And other friends who go, actually, like for someone like myself, I haven't got the genetics to play the game. Therefore, why would I dedicate my entire life to a pursuit which is only going to really hurt me in a lot of different ways when I could do something else which I'm going to be better at and actually provide a lot more joy? You look at your life a bit more objectively, I think.
You also maintain like a phenomenal physique that most people would be like, I want to, you know, like that's a physique I want to walk around with. And you particularly strike me because you walk around with that physique. You're in absolute control of your body. Your chosen aesthetics, you know, and you have this kind of like balance, which is I think it's really cool to me, you know, that you can kind of look great, work out, eat well, enjoy what you eat, have balance, thrive in your business. You know, like you don't need to dedicate every fucking waking moment to looking a certain way. It's a relatively small time cost per day, and a lot of it's just behavioral.
I like the old. We talk a lot about philosophy, but it's like the whole sort of Greek philosophy type mantra is like be strong in body and mind. And it's like if you can do everything. I'm going to tell one story. Like this is my favorite story I tell about this sort of stuff. By the way, I'll just do it. So when I was younger, I used to train in this gym in Exeter. And my brother was a PT, and there was this dude that came in there. I won't name his name, but he probably won't listen to this anyway. But he was a guy came in. He was a barrister, right? And he drove like sports car, had a really nice house, beautiful family, wife, kids, dream bloke, like such a nice guy. Had his career on lock. Everything in his life was great, right? And the guy was in like pretty decent shape, but trying to get better. And he used to come in the gym, and he'd be like, "Oh, I feel a bit intimidated here." And I'm like, dude's like 40, like in decent shape. And he'd be like, oh, this guy's in better shape. I'm like, no disrespect to that guy, but he literally works a labouring job. And like, he's a similar age to you. In life, you fucking won, mate. Like, you've won that. If all you need to do is lift this one dial up 10%, and like you've completely, like, you might as well be like, that's a fucking full house, mate. Like, I've completed it.
Done.
The royal flush. Like, and it always stuck with me because I was thinking, you can't have everything, but you can play the game to stack it very much like you are this.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're competing with anyone else, but you don't have to like just push one dial to 100 and hope that your physique is going to be your identity. It's like you've got so many aspects that you can just elevate in your life. And maybe for someone like myself, physique's not going to be the highest one, but I can still push it as high as I can, right? But I still push these other ones higher, and that makes my life great. You don't have to be like, it's just bodybuilding and fuck everything else.
Yeah. But it's a bit like, you know, the analogy with the polypharmacy model, isn't it? You know, like
exactly
don't drive, you know, try one thing, try and move up all of them. You know, it's and you get the best outcomes that way, maybe.
I'm biased, obviously, but I think that's the way that I like to live my life.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's really
very cool. Matt, it was awesome to have you on.
Well, it's absolute pleasure.
Is there anything you'd like to shout out? Of course, the Physique Collective members site.
Yeah, so Physique Collective's members site, thank you, Tom. So physiquecollective.com. We've got an app. It's a very active forum, great education. I was going as far to say there's not a single site in the world that's got as much education, and certainly nowhere near the cost. It's £9.99 a month.
Yeah, it's the best.
My own coaching page, Matt_Physique Collective, we really went out and pushed the boat out with the naming there. But Matt_Physique Collective, and I also own another business for acne and bodybuilders called Acne Antidote. If you want to check that out.
Yes, also very, very helpful. Someone who's suffered with acne as a teenager and as a bodybuilder. Yeah, you don't have to live with that.
You don't have to live with that. But honestly, guys, thank you so much for coming on. That was a really, really enjoyable chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Lovely to have you on. Guys, we'll be back next week.